Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 9. Nazi Iron Man Buddha. While traveling through Tibet in 1938, a group of Nazi soldiers came across an intriguing Buddhist sculpture of a man bearing what appeared to be a swastika on his belly. They hauled the 22-pound figure, nicknamed the Iron Man, back to Germany with them. It remained in the hands of a private collector until 2007, when experts finally got a chance to study it for the first time. In 2012, National Geographic reported that the statue was thought to date back to the 11th century, and that it was carved from a meteorite that landed between Mongolia and Siberia around 15,000 years ago. Elmar Buchner, who specializes in studying meteorites, told the BBC that the material, known as an attexite, is rich in cobalt and nickel. Based on its status as the only known figure carved from a meteorite, he estimated its value at around $20,000. Later that year, a new study challenged Buchner's findings, claiming that the Iron Man's features are inconsistent with traditional Buddhist statues. While the report agreed that it was carved from a meteorite, it argued that the sculpture was probably made during the 20th century. But nobody seems to know for sure, and most reports seem to agree with Buchner's analysis that the Iron Man was crafted 1,000 years ago. But the thing is that it is not that strange to have a swastika in Buddhism. This symbol has been used for thousands of years as a spiritual icon, and everyone loved it until Hitler stole it and ruined it. Number 8. White Shaman Mural. 4,000 years ago, one or more members of an ancient hunter-gatherer tribe covered the wall of a limestone rock cave in southwestern Texas with a collection of images. The 26-foot-long rock canvas includes abstract depictions of deer gods, moon goddesses, fire-sun deities, cloud serpents, and other spiritual beings. There is also a tall, headless, human-like figure that gives the White Shaman mural its name. It's one of several collections of paintings that can be found on rock shelters throughout the region. They were created by the hunter-gatherers who inhabited the area between 2500 and 500 BC. Experts have known about the artwork for a long time, but they are not much closer to understanding it now than they were when they first learned about it. The images are unique to the point of defying explanation. Several theories have been put forth, including the possibility that shamans created the paintings to depict hallucinations that they were experiencing while using drugs. On the other hand, archaeologist and former artist Carolyn Boyd thinks that the White Shaman and other artwork reflect the spiritual beliefs of their creators. She even believes that if experts take a hard enough look at the pictures, they'll be able to read them. In other words, to understand them as their original creators did. Unlike some researchers who think that the White Shaman mural was painted by many people over time, Boyd believes it was conceived and created as a single piece of artwork. Considering how big it is, she said that the artist must have used some type of primitive scaffolding in order to get the job done. Boyd has suggested that the painting depicts the birth of the sun and the beginning of time. Nobody else seems to understand the artwork as deeply as she does, but there is also truly no telling whether she's right or not. The closest we'll ever get, without being able to ask the creators themselves, is by coming up with a theory that everyone can agree makes the most sense. Number 7. Bison Massacre. Around 500 BC, a group of people from the little-understood northern plains culture of North America left behind a wealth of artifacts in what is now Alberta, Canada. The collection includes bone fragments from 65 or more bison, who appeared to have been butchered in a single event, as well as over 100 stone points made from a type of rock that's only found 620 miles away in North Dakota. Perhaps the most peculiar artifacts of all were a series of 8 bison bone arrangements found beneath a layer of scattered bones and tools. Archaeologists scrambled to excavate the site, located just north of the Montana border, after finding evidence of looting in 2015. It appeared as though the ancient hunters had ambushed the bison by herding them into a marshy area surrounded by dunes, giving the animals limited options for escape. Furthermore, the presence of 2 different types of projectile points at the site indicates that there were 2 different cultural influences in the area at some point in time. Neither point seemed to be from the immediate area, with one style resembling points that are usually found further to the east, while the other resembling projectiles that were used by groups based in the Dakotas. The groundbreaking discovery suggests that these groups lived in the Alberta area 2,500 years ago, before one migrated northward and the other went west. These findings pose several questions about how and why the cultures moved other places, as well as what the dynamics of their trade relationships were. And of course, there's the bison bone sculptures. They may have been ritual offerings, but their purpose is truly a mystery. Number 6. Ravana's dead body. The Ramayana is an ancient Sanskrit epic from India. It's one of the most important Hindu texts in existence, and also one of the longest in the world, with over 24,000 verses. The story tells of a prince named Rama as he's exiled to the forest by his father, King Dasharatha, at his stepmother's request. Always the evil stepmother. For years, Rama wanders the Indian subcontinent with his wife Sita and his brother Lakshmana. At some point, Sita is kidnapped by Ravana, the king of an island fortress called Lanka. A war erupted, and thankfully Rama won and was crowned the new king. There are many different versions of the Ramayana, and it plays a major role in many people's lives and spiritual beliefs. Scholars don't know for sure if it's a true story, but many people believe that it is, and that there are historical sites where certain events from the Ramayana took place. There are reportedly at least 50 such sites in Sri Lanka, where some even believe that Ravana's dead body has been lying in a cave, perfectly preserved, for the last 10,000 years. One tourism website claims that Ravana was laid to rest in a coffin inside of a cave that sits 8,000 feet above sea level. Supposedly, his body looks no different than the day he was left at the site, owing to the magical preservation effects of a special paste that was slathered onto the outside of his casket. What's more, the coffin is said to measure 18 feet long and 5 feet wide. There is allegedly a collection of buried treasure beneath the burial, but nobody's managed to get their hands on it because it's guarded by a snake and other fierce animals. Some would argue that this could all be true, while to others it sounds like an obvious tall tale. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And now for number 5. But first, want to give a big shout out to Cynthia Molière and DJ Chark. Thanks so much for watching and spending time with us in our little corner of the internet. If you are new here, welcome, and be sure to subscribe to join the Origins Explained family. Number 5. Neanderthal stone circles. We don't know much about our extinct cousins, the Neanderthals, but it's become increasingly clear in recent years, and as more discoveries are being made, that we need to rethink some long-held misconceptions we have about them. For example, humans tend to stereotype Neanderthals as uncivilized and, for lack of a better term, stupid. Yet there is a growing body of evidence that our early relatives were intelligent beings with complex cultures. They made their own tools, created artwork, may have mourned their dead, and possibly even had a sense of fashion. So, when cave explorers discovered a series of layered ring-like structures in southwestern France in 1990, they probably weren't too quick to assume that Neanderthals had anything to do with the site. Constructed from stalagmites, the bizarre assemblages were found in a cave that had previously been closed off by a landslide. It wasn't until 2016 that researchers published a study claiming that Neanderthals built the structures at Bruniquel Cave 176,000 years ago. At the time, there were no humans in Europe yet, so it couldn't have been us. The discovery adds to the growing consensus that Neanderthals were much smarter than we give them credit for. But there are still some mysteries surrounding the site, including why the Neanderthals built the elaborate structures and why they traveled so far into the caves where they were found. There is also evidence that the occupants burned fires and charred the bones of bears or other large animals as part of the building process, but their reasons for doing so are unclear. Number 4. Ghost Cavalry of Gondole. While excavating ahead of a new highway construction project in 2002, archaeologists in central France discovered a mass burial unlike anything they'd ever seen before. Dating back to the late Iron Age, the grave contained the remains of 7 men, an adolescent male, and 8 horses. They were members of a Celtic tribe called the Gauls, who originated in Western Europe during the 5th century BC. The Gauls were not a unified group with a single leader, but they came together against a common enemy when the time and place called for it. The humans were laid with their heads pointing south and their faces turned to the east. Each man's left arm was placed on the body next to him. There were no signs of injuries or violence, and the burial contained no grave goods. Experts speculated that the group might have met their untimely end while fighting the Romans. Even though the bodies didn't appear wounded, they were found near Gergovia, where Julius Caesar battled Gallic forces in 52 BC. It's also possible that the tomb's unusual arrangement had something to do with a ritual ceremony, or that the individuals were laid to rest after an intertribal dispute. Number 3. Morai. Just outside the village of Maras in southeastern Peru, there is a large bowl-like structure consisting of enormous concentric terraces with a circular bottom. There are multiple staircases cutting through the amphitheater-like construction, which measures roughly 600 feet in diameter. Its largest circular depression is about 98 feet deep. Known as Morai, the ancient site sits approximately 11,500 feet above sea level. It was built and used by the Incas, but its purpose is a mystery. Between the top and the bottom, the temperature difference measures as much as 9 degrees Fahrenheit. The structure is equipped with an irrigation system, indicating that it may have been used for farming. Most researchers seem to agree that this is the most plausible explanation. It's also possible that the Incas used the site as a mine and then decided to grow crops over it. Evidence suggests that they might have experimented with creating different microclimates and growing plants in different conditions that were created by the various levels. In other words, it perhaps functioned as an ancient agricultural research station. It appears as though the Incas may have even brought soil samples to the site from elsewhere as part of their experiments. Since this seems to be the case, this makes Morai one of the most impressive Inca engineering projects that you probably never even knew about. Number 2. Rare statue of an elite woman. While digging near a citrus grove near Mexico's Gulf Coast in early 2021, a group of farmers came across a 6-foot-tall statue of a wide-eyed female. It's the first sculpture of its kind ever found in the Huasteca region, and it's unclear whether the artifact depicts a goddess, an elite woman, or perhaps contains elements of both. She bears several signs of a high-ranking social status, including an elaborate hairpiece. Archaeologists with Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History tentatively dated the statue to sometime between 1450 and 1521. They are unsure of its origins because it was found near a pre-Hispanic ruin site, but contains features that are more characteristic of the Aztec culture. The location where the farmers dug up the statue is not a known archaeological site, suggesting that it may have been brought from elsewhere. Several experts weighed in on who they thought the woman might be, but nobody could say for certain. Most only got as specific as saying that she could be a ruler from a number of different ancient cultures that are known for their depictions of powerful women. Number 1. Cerro Sechin. The prehistoric Chasma Sechin culture lived throughout northern coastal Peru starting as far back as 2400 BC. Its capital, Cerro Sechin, sits atop a granite hill as part of a larger complex called Sechin Alto. Located north of modern-day Lima, the site is filled with megalithic architecture, including a stepped pyramid surrounded by buildings. There is also a 13.5-foot-tall retaining wall around the perimeter, featuring hundreds of graphic bas-relief depictions of human sacrifice. Built later on in the site's history, the wall contains shocking images of victorious warriors holding their weapons and the brutally dismembered body parts of their victims. Whoever carved the reliefs made sure to include graphic depictions of severed limbs and heads, scattered organs, skewered eyeballs, and human bones. Little is known about the culture that built Cerro Sechin, which appears to have functioned as an administrative, political, and ceremonial center. This limited understanding makes it difficult for experts to interpret the violent artwork. For example, they don't know whether the images represent specific battles or rebellions, or if they have a more spiritual context, and perhaps symbolize demigods and other mythical characters. Based on the gory details in the carvings, some have suggested that the site served as a lab for anatomical studies. Either way, the civilization had an impressively advanced understanding of the human body for the time. Cerro Sechin was abandoned around 800 BC for reasons that remain a mystery to this day. Other ancient ceremonial and public centers in the region seem to have declined at around the same time, leaving behind few, if any, clues as to why. Thanks for watching! What was your favorite discovery? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. See you next time! Bye!